संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of the great master Sri Ramakrishna. As usual, we will start with the life of Mathur Babu. We are now in the pilgrimage to Kashi. Now from Kashi, we will proceed to Vrindavan. Ramakrishna is going to the pilgrimage of Vrindavan. Is also taking all of us to Vrindavan now. We will now go to Vrindavan. Sri Ramakrishna, Mathurnath Babu and other people now, after a week in Varanasi, the party went to Prayag. I described in the last class about this Prayagraja. It was the very popular, very famous pilgrimage site of Hindus. Wherever there were any pilgrimage sites, sacred sites of Hindus, the Islamic invaders used to destroy them and build a mosque. Here too, they have tried to do that in Prayagraj. Kashi also, you can see that masjid which has been built over the temple of Kashi Vishwanath. So many other things have been destroyed. Not only there, in Mathura, where the Krishna's birthplace, there is a big mosque standing there. And also the whole of Vrindavan, now where we are going, the whole of Vrindavan was razed to grounds. Aurangzeb was the ruler. He saw from Agra, now presently near Delhi, was his palace. From the top of his palace, he could see that there were many gopurams, big temple pillars, or the domes of the temples, Krishna temple, which were built by none other than the grandson of Arjuna, son of our Abhimanyu, Parikshit Maharaja. So he built so many temples in the name of Lord Krishna. At that time, there lived one of his aunt who had seen Krishna. This Parikshit had seen Krishna only when he was a very small baby. So he didn't remember much of Krishna's face. So now he asked his aunt to describe how Krishna was. So that aunt started describing the features of Krishna, and there was one expert sculptor who started chiseling the image after hearing from that aunt of Parikshit. So he made an image of Krishna. So the first image, the sculptor did it. Then the aunt looked at it and told, yeah, it is resembling Lord Krishna, but his legs up to the waist is resembling perfectly like Krishna. But the other parts are very similar, but not as perfect. Then again, she started describing, the sculptor started chiseling the image. Then now, after the whole idol of Krishna was ready, then that auntie of Parikshit told, after looking at that image, this time you have done the waist portion of Lord Krishna perfectly. So from the upper part of the leg up to the chest or the waist is perfectly like Krishna. The other portion is similar, it's very nearer to Krishna, but not as perfect. Then again he started, the auntie of Parikshit started explaining about Lord Krishna features. Then he started chiseling. So now, finally, when that image was ready, that auntie of Parikshit told, the face portion of Krishna is very similar to Lord Krishna there. Now, all the three images, because now in one image, the leg portion is perfect like Krishna. Another image, it is the waist portion. And in the other image, the face portion was similar to Krishna. So all the three images were installed, building huge structures. Very big temples were built over that. Parikshit himself built, established that. And it existed for many, many years. So all those temples, tall rising gopurams, you know that in the gopurams of the temple, they will light with cloth. They will put that cotton cloth, wicks, big cloth, and oil would be there. The big structure, it would be not a lamp-like thing, but places would be there on the spirals or that gopuram or domes. It may be seven structured. Most probably it would be seven storied. That was very popular. It could be more too. If you go to now some of the temples in Madurai, if you go to Tirupati, I think if you go to Rameshwaram, you can see such big spirals, gopurams. So on that there would be in every story there would be gap there to light this lamp. Big structures, open structures, whereby there will be a space for putting oil, and the big cloths would be there, and they would light. So from kilometers together, they could see that temple is there. So the devotees would see it from far off places, maybe 30, 40, 50 kilometers. Seeing that gopuram, they would feel that this is the temple. Now here, Vrindavan, they used to tell, oh, this is the temple of Lord Krishna there in Vrindavan. So there is also a belief in Hinduism that if you see the vision of gopuram, that gopuram, it is as good as seeing the Lord himself in the temple. There is a belief. So they will look at that gopuram itself. There will be so many images of different gods and goddesses. So if it is as good as seeing the Lord himself, the Kalasham, the gopuram, if you see, is as good as that. So people would see from far off, those who couldn't come from so many kilometers together, it would be tall structures, and they used to feel. So here Aurangzeb, the ruthless, the cruel ruler, the Islamic invader, who had imprisoned his own father, killed his own brother, and put his father into the jail. Such cruel tyrant he was. So he hated Hinduism. So he saw at those spiral and asked his ministers, what are those things? It is a famous temple of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna. Then he told, tomorrow those spirals should not be there. I should not see it. Then army marched immediately. The spies of Rajasthan, Rajputs. So they immediately gave the news to the kings of Rajput, and the spies were sent by the kings of Rajput to Vrindavan immediately, and they were smuggled. The images were taken away. The beautiful images of Lord Krishna and other images were taken away, hiding them in bullock carts under the straw or something like that, grass. So then the kings in the Rajput kings in Jaipur, they established those temples. One of them, if you go to Jaipur proper, I had been to the temple, Govindji temple in Jaipur, in the palace, inside the palace it has been established. Then when I heard about this story, I went to see there in Jaipur, this Krishna, which Lord image of Krishna bought from Vrindavan, and it was very similar to the Krishnas. This thing as told by the auntie of Parikshit, who had seen Lord Krishna. So then I went there, I felt that the legs were so beautiful. So beautiful. Even now, if you go there to Jaipur and see that, you can feel it. I thought this might be the Krishna's image where the legs of Krishna were perfect. So I could feel that the legs were so beautiful of Lord Krishna there, Govindji. Even if you go now, you can see that it's an open palace structure. It has been established, and it is there. In Jaipur, a little far away from there, another image has been established, and the third image was taken away by one of the princesses of Jaipur, asking that as a her gift to be taken to her place, and she has established that. I went to Rajasthan, I went to all these three places just to see those images. When I heard about this story, I searched and went to all those images, went and saw, had the darshan of all three Krishnas there, and came back. So even if you go there, in Jaipur itself, these two are there. In the famous temple, in the famous palace of those kings, you can see this Govindji. So all other things also can be seen if you go around Rajasthan. So many things have been established. As I told you, also the stone, the stupa, on which now Kamsa used to bang the children to kill all the children of Vasudeva and Devaki. So when the Divine Mother, the baby which was bought from Vrindavan, Gokula, who was the daughter of Rohini, it was bought here, that it was replaced. Then I think whether it is Rohini or it was, may not be Rohini, it is Yashoda. So it was bought here. And Kamsa also tried to smash it. He touched that stone, stupa. He used to smash the head of those babies on that stone, stupa or balipita. Then when that touched, the mother escaped from this thing, who was the Divine Mother, took the form of a kite and flew up and told that, you fool, your son, the child who's going to be killing you is there already. You think that you have killed that? No, it's there. He will kill you, come and kill you. And she went away. So because it touched the head of that Divine Mother, that stone has been taken by one of the another Rajasthan Rajput kings of Jaipur and established. A Kali, they were beautiful on the top of the mountain. A Kali temple has been established. I went to have a vision of that Divine Mother Kali temple there on the top of that mountain in Jaipur. And there, this stone was there. I could see they told this has been bought from the Mathura Jain, where because it was touched by the head of Divine Mother, it is sacred for the Shakti worshippers. So they have established here. Whatever might be there. So later on, it was raised to grounds and the whole thing was a rubble. Some of the images were taken and many images were bought from Vrindavan, which were established long, long back. Many images were brought back to Vrindavan, and no, sorry, not from Vrindavan, as what do you call, just like suppose you go to a war and you will win something, they will bring back as a memory. So like that, all the images were bought, and the Muslim king Aurangzeb, they kept them as some dolls or some playthings for this Zanana. Zanana means the women's section, where the children and grandchildren, so many children will be there, because the Muslim kings used to have so many queens, maybe hundreds or 200s in their Zanana. So they will be having so many children, they need some dolls to play. So they used to keep these images which were bought from Vrindavan, images of Lord Krishna. So they were given as play toys and dolls to those children there in the house. It was used like that too, just to denigrate and just to insult Hinduism. Then later on, maybe after that, 100 years or 150 years, when the great Ramanujacharya went to Delhi, at that time he was a great saint, and he went to one of the then Muslim ruler. So seeing his scholarship, seeing his so many spiritual powers and scholarship, the Muslim king, then ruling king, was very much pleased. So he told, you ask for a boon, whatever you want. By his yogic power, Ramanujacharya could know that there was one very beautiful image of Lord Krishna of Vrindavan, which was bought from Vrindavan. It was as a toy of one girl child of that king. So she had grown up to the age of something like 15 or 16 or a little more. So playing with that from her childhood, that girl, Muslim princesses of this, daughter of that king, the then ruling king, had developed love towards Lord Krishna. Though she was a Muslim queen, because she was growing up with that toy or with that image of Krishna, it was so beautiful. She started loving and having that Madhura Bhava with that Lord Krishna's image. So she was having that. So Ramanujacharya asked that you have that one image, beautiful image. I want that images if you want to give me as a boon or a prize. Then that king also wanted to get rid of that image because that girl was attached to that image. So he gave it away. And Ramanuja knew that anytime the mind of the king would change, the Muslim king, so he carried it, ran fast and fast with that image with his disciples. He carried that image and went towards South India. to his hometown, Melukote, near Mysore. So he ran and ran. How much can they run? Okay. They were running with that image. He was so much devoted to that image. He ran and ran with his disciples. And finally, this girl who was in love with Lord Krishna as her husband, she gave up food, she gave up sleep and everything. She was about to die because that image of Krishna whom she was attached to was taken away. 15 days or many days, she didn't take food, 20 days. Then she was about to die. Seeing that, then the king got this thing upset. He told he wanted to save his daughter. Why was she fasting? Because of that image. Then go. He sent some 50 or 100 cavalry on the horses to quickly go, because then that was the only mode of fastest travel. Elephants would not travel so fast. So the horses, men on horse, some 50 or 100 people were sent to go and fetch that back. If that saint doesn't give back, kill him and bring that back. So this 50 or 100 cavalrymen on the horses went towards South India. By that time, they had reached they had gone far away towards South India, towards Mysore. So finally, they surrounded them near somewhere, that Mandia or that Melukote or that place, near that place in Mysore. And they were about to take away. There was a very big colony of low caste people, of Harijans living there. They saw that one of the saint is surrounded by these Muslim invaders, 100 or 500. They took whatever they could, laid on their hands, sticks, cudgels, hammers, tongs, and what do you call the long knives, or whatever they could lay, any arms they had. Thousands of them bought that and attacked the soldiers and chased them away and protected Ramanujacharya. Then Ramanujacharya established that in Melukote. Even now, that image is still there. It is called Chalva Narayana. Narayana is the name. Chalva means beautiful. The most beautiful. Chalva means beautiful. It is still established there in Melukote. If you want, you can come near Mysore. In Melukote, you can go and see that Chalva Narayana. Beautiful image of Lord Narayana. Krishna is there from the time of Vrindavan. That was bought from there. And this girl who had given up food and other things, when she came to know that is established there, gave up father, mother. She was so attached to Krishna, came down to South India, and after coming, having the vision of the Lord, she gave up her body there. So she is called in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya as Bibi Nancharamma. Bibi means, it is told, the wife or the woman of Muslims are called Bibi. So somehow the South India, that in Sri Vaishnava, this thing they have given, I don't know what was the name, Begum, that this thing of the daughter who fell in love with Lord Krishna, who came there and gave up her life there. But in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, she is called Nancharamma, Nancharamma. So they call her Bibi Nancharamma. So she became a very great lady. She's even worshipped in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya as one who had fallen in love with Krishna with Madhura Bhava. So that's the story there of Vrindavan. So then the whole Vrindavan was razed to ground. It became like a forest and there was nothing there. So after so many years, the great saint Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after going to Vrindavan there, in his meditation and by his yogic power, he rediscovered all the places of Vrindavan and it was reconstructed. Whatever you see now you see now in Vrindavan, all the temples and everything, there is that rubbles of that old broken temples too. But whatever you see now, places like Kalinga Mardana and Rasa, Leela, everything was rediscovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciples. They lived there, they meditated, and by the grace of Krishna and Mother Radha, everything was rediscovered. So whatever you see is rediscovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciples in Vrindavan. So now this is the story of Vrindavan, the sportive place of Lord Krishna. Now we'll see what happened when Ramakrishna went to Vrindavan. The pilgrims now, with Sri Ramakrishna, Mathur Babu and all other people, maybe more than 100 were there. Now including us, all of us are also going. Again, returned from the pilgrims, they went to, from Varanasi, the party went to Prayag. Prayag also, I told you already the incidences, it was raised to grounds and now it is brought back. And that Triveni Sangama is there. So even the Samsara Vriksha, the Vata Vriksha, the people tree, which was planted at that time, which came up during the time of that Yaga of Brahma. So that is very sacred to Hindus. So it was tried to be destroyed by the Muslim invaders. They tried to kill it, cut it again, it started growing. Then finally they wanted to, so many times it grew. So they put molten lead to the roots so that permanently that tree should be killed. But even then it started growing. So they wanted to stop the Hindus to go and worship the tree. So they built a very big fort around it. Even now the fort exists, the tree is within that. It is near to that one temple of Hanuman temple, there on the bank of that Triveni. You can see that lying on the ground like this, facing upwards. You have to see from above like this. It is on the ground, just like sleeping Hanumas or something like that. If you go there to Prayag, you can see that. So it was destroyed and it was named as Allahabad. Now it has been rechristened as Prayag Raja. So if you go there, you can see that Samsara Vriksha, you can see all other things there. So Prayagraj. Now Ramakrishna has come to that place for a few days in Prayagraj and bathed in the holy confluence of Ganga. So Ramakrishna has taken bath. The great avatar has come and taken bath there in the Triveni Sangama, the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna and Saraswati, and then again they returned back to Varanasi. Next day, they started to Vrindavan, the playground of Krishna. Here too, Mathur arranged to have a palanquin take Sri Ramakrishna to the holy places of Vrindavan. He also gave away large sum of money in charity. Now, while going there, Ramakrishna met, while in Vrindavan, a great old lady was a very great devotee of Lord Krishna. Ramakrishna could identify that she was very, very progressed in spiritual life and she was a great devotee of Krishna. Her name was Ganga Mata. So, a highly revered Vaishnava woman who lived there in Vrindavan believed that she had gone forward too much in spiritual life. She had so much of yogic power because of progress in spiritual life. She had also lived in that bhava, Madhura bhava. She was staying there, great devotee of Lord Krishna, Ganga Mata. So she could identify because she had a lot of yogic powers and she had gone forward in spiritual life. Her third eye, due to the knowledge, that eye of knowledge, she could recognize, she could see Mother Radha. Because now Ramakrishna, while staying in Vrindavan, he was in that mood of Madhura Bhava, identifying himself with Radha, Mother Radha. He was in that Madhura Bhava at that time, or whatever it might be. But this lady, Ganga Mata, due to her progress in spiritual life, she could identify, she could see her Ishtadevata's great lover, Radha Mata, Radha. She was also a great devotee of Radha Mata. If you go to Vrindavan, they will not tell Krishna, Krishna, name of Krishna or Govinda. There they will repeat only Radhe, Radhe. That she is the empress. So if you want to have Krishna's grace, then you have to first supplicate to Mother Radha. That's why they know Krishna's name in Vrindavan. They will take only any time. Suppose you see in other places in North India, they will tell Ram Ram. In some other places, they will tell Hari Om. But in Vrindavan, they will not tell Krishna Krishna or Govinda Govinda. They will tell Radhe Radhe. So the moment they say somebody there, other devotee, how is that they greet here in South India? Sorry, in South Africa, we greet all the Hindus, greet each other with Om Namo Narayanaya. Everyone. It's a wonderful practice. I felt thrilled. Even in India, some people who are spiritually evolved or they're interested in religion, they tell this Hari Om or take the name of God, Ram Ram and other things. But general population don't have this habit. They are just immersed in worldly thoughts and other things. Here, I have seen most 90%. I have met all the Hindus. They're so much devoted to the religion. They're so much devoted to gods and goddesses. Though they don't know mantras, they don't know all that deeper things, so much devotion to the Lord. So each Hindus, whenever they see each other, compulsorily, anytime over the phone, they will tell Om Namo Narayanaya or Om or whatever it might be. They will take the name of the Lord. So many times they chant Hanuman Chalisa. So all that is to be appreciated. They are preserved. coming away from the motherland for 150 or 160 years, then staying here. They have not given up so much of temptation to get converted to Christianity. So many things were given, so much trouble was given to them, so much they had to face difficulty, but they have not given up their religion. They're practicing it. Really, it is to be appreciated. It is in their genes. They have never given, they have carried only some Tulsi Das Ramayana and some other people, the South Indian, those who came from Tamil Nadu, they are still worshipping Mariamman, they are still worshipping Muruga, they are still worshipping Ganesha, Shiva, and people who have come from Bihar and UP and Bengal, they are worshipping Kali, Divine Mother Kali, some are worshipping Ramachandra, so devoted to Tulsidas that Ramcharit Manas. So it is really to be appreciated. So likewise, we can see they will tell Om Namo Narayanaya. So now it's a wonderful thing, everybody. But in our practice there, the monastic members, the Swami seeing another Swami, they had to tell that Om Namo Narayanaya. But here everybody, all the Hindus, they tell it is really great. That mantra is repeated all the time. Any Hindu seeing another time or they make a phone call, they will tell Om Namo Narayanaya. That's really wonderful. So here, this mother, so Vrindavan, they tell Radhe Radhe. She is the empress. She is the greater than Krishna there in Vrindavan. Radhe Radhe, they will tell. So this Ganga Mata could see that Ramakrishna was none other than the incarnation of Radha. So this Ganga Mata, a highly revered Vaishnava woman who lived in Vrindavan, practiced lot of severe austerities, believed that Sri Ramakrishna was an incarnation. She had the vision of Radha. The moment she saw Ramakrishna, she could understand it. Nobody told her, nobody prompted her, neither Ramakrishna. The moment she saw Ramakrishna, she could understand it was Mother Radha who has come there in that form of Sri Ramakrishna. What a surprise, isn't it? How could that great lady, Vaishnava lady who was a great devotee, she could see Radha. So now can you see Radha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna? We have seen Krishna Swarupa, Rama Swarupa, Shiva Swarupa, Gadadhara Vishnu Swarupa, Ramakrishna, then Sita Swarupa, Hanuman Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna, then recently we saw Ganesha Swarupa. Now this lady is having the vision of Mother Radha in Ramakrishna. So Radha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna. Sarvadeva, why the great direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and also Holy Mother also told. What has Holy Mother told about Sri Ramakrishna? Sharda Devi. Ramakrishna is Maheshwara. Ramakrishna is Maheshwari. Ramakrishna is the form of all mantras. Ramakrishna is the form of all gods and goddesses. Ramakrishna is the form of all bija mantras. So these are the statements made by Mother Sharda Devi and all the other disciples. They had seen it, they had observed. So now you can see all the saints, all the great people, wherever Sri Ramakrishna is going. A Buddhist monk in Tibet, Akhandanandaji used to carry the photo of Sri Ramakrishna and go there as an itinerant monk, walking everywhere. He had gone to Tibet, crossed Himalayas. He used to stay in monasteries there, a very great Buddhist monk who had progressed spiritually. The moment he saw the photo of Sri Ramakrishna with Akhandanandaji, he replied, oh, this is the person who has reached a very high state, Buddhahood. Seeing, the moment he saw the photo, that spiritually progressed monk of Buddhism, he never knew about anything about Ramakrishna. I told, this is none other than who has reached Buddhahood, Buddha only. This is a photo, incarnation of Buddha. So Buddha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna. Then when that photo, when somebody was carrying for the first time a great saint called the Narayana Guru, Chattambi Swami's disciple. Now the great ashrama is there, Narayana Guru Ashrama. That saint, when he saw for the first time the photo of Sri Ramakrishna, he told, if Parabrahma Swarupa takes a human form, the highest God who is without form, formless, attributeless, Parabrahma Swarupa, if it takes a human form, it will be like this. That great saint had shown. So now Radha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna, this lady is saying, she told the Ganga Mata, highly revered Vaishnava woman who lived in Vrindavan, believed that Sri Ramakrishna was an incarnation of Mother Radha. She wanted the master to live permanently there in Vrindavan. And also, almost because of the devotion of that lady, Ramakrishna also agreed to stay permanently in Vrindavan. And she wanted to serve that old, very old lady, Ganga Mata, who saw Radha Mata in Ramakrishna, convinced Sri Ramakrishna to stay in Vrindavan permanently so that she could be serving Mother Radha there in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. Convinced, almost Ramakrishna was ready and he agreed also. And he told Mathur Babu and other people, you can go back. I will not come. I will stay here itself. Mathur was worried. What can I do now? Ramakrishna wants to stay back in Vrindavan. He doesn't want to come back because of that great devotion of that old lady, Ganga Mata, who saw Radha there and convinced Sri Ramakrishna to stay there. Almost convinced him to stay there. Mathur was heartsick. What shall I do? How can I give up my master who is more dearer to me than Kali, Kali Swarupa? Kali, Mother Kali is living with me, my Ishtadevata, and doing all that, protecting me. How can I give up? Ramakrishna has been convinced to stay there. He doesn't want to come back to Dakshineshwar. So he was heartsick. What shall I do? He did not know how he could return to Calcutta without the master. He was very much upset. However, Sri Ramakrishna finally changed his mind. How? Mathuranath and also Hridayanath, they knew the weakness of Sri Ramakrishna. What was the weakness of Sri Ramakrishna? Again, you will get Ganesha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna. His biological mother, he was so much devoted to his biological mother Chandramani Devi. Even after getting sannyasa, even he knew that he was the avatara. But he has shown us how to be highly devoted to the mother, biological mother. Highest devotion to the biological mother. Ramakrishna has shown the ideal of Matru Bhakti, just like Ganesha. Ganesha had that highest ideal, is the highest ideal for Matru Bhakti, devotion to Mother Parvati, his own mother, biological mother. And now Ramakrishna is also having that Ganesha Swarupa, the ideal of filial attitude, so that devotion, great devotion to his own mother, biological mother. So Ramakrishna is showing that ideal for us. So if you are devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, how much devoted should we to be our biological mother? So that is there in our order too, in our Ramakrishna order. Without the permission of the mother, they will not give sannyasa or they will not take into monastic life. Any person who is joining the Ramakrishna order has to get the permission from father and mother and then come to join the order. So even I, in my pre-monastic day, I took the permission of my mother and I did pranams to her feet and I took her permission and blessing and then only I came. So she used to come to visit me. So that's a different thing. Now, let us come to the thing here, how Ramakrishna was highly devoted to his mother, biological mother. So, Ganesha Swarupa Sri Ramakrishna. So, finally, Ramakrishna changed his mind to come back to Dakshineshwar after Hriday and Mathur reminded him that your old mother will feel sick without you, then she will be in pain. The moment he heard about his mother, he gave up everything, the idea of staying in Vrindavan, and came back. He remembered that his old mother, Chandramani Devi, was living in Dakshineshwar. So he changed the decision and came back to Dakshineshwar. She was highly devoted to the mother. So let us also gain that devotion to our mother and father, Matru Bhakti, Pitru Bhakti, which is our ideal of all Hindus. Not just celebrating Mother's Day on one day, yearly once, taking a red rose or some whatever rose, colored rose, and giving to mother, giving some gifts in the old age home or nursing home, and then go and enjoy your life, your worldly life. No. All the high studies, why we were taught when we were young children, that is how we grew up with that ideal, that all our reading, all our sacrifice should be to our mother, not to the wife and children or anything. That was the way it is taught in Hinduism. All these studies, all this earning money, all that you are becoming rich is not for your sense enjoyments, but to serve your mother and father. When they grow old, that is the ideal taught in Hinduism. Even now, many people are like that, so highly devoted to mother and father. When they are grown old, I have seen many people coming to ashrama. They will not get married. They will give up everything. Why? To serve father and mother. They are highly devoted. Even now, I have seen such people coming to ashrama and also living elsewhere in India. They give up their married life, no sense enjoyments, just for the sake of their service to the mother and father. I've seen so many devotees in the ashrama where I stayed, Bangalore, and many other centers. I've seen so many devotees, highly devoted to father and mother. They would not marry because their focus will go away somewhere in the here. They want to just serve the father and mother. I've seen them literally carrying their parents pilgrimage sites, serving them in their last days. How much service they do. Oh, you'll be thrilled to see that. So this is what Ramakrishna has shown as the ideal, high devotion to mother. So now, however, Ramakrishna finally changed his mind of permanently settling down in Vrindavan. And when he remembered that his old mother Chandramani Devi was living in Dakshineshwar. The pilgrims, now with Ramakrishna, all of us now returned back to Varanasi after 2 weeks in Vrindavan and stayed until the end of May in Varanasi. Mathur wanted to visit Gaya on the way back to Dakshineshwar. Little deviation, maybe it is something like 60 or 80 kilometers from Calcutta. A little deviation from the path, Ganga, you will get Gaya. So they wanted to visit Gaya too. Gaya was on the way back, but Mathur also decided we will go to that famous pilgrimage center, Gaya Vishnu, to see Gaya Vishnu. But Ramakrishna refused. Why? Let us see. But Ramakrishna refused to go there to Gaya. He knew about his father's vision at Gaya and the mysterious nature of his birth, that Gaya Vishnu had told that he will be born as the child of Kshudaram Chattopadhyaya. And so Ramakrishna's avatar has come from this Gaya Vishnu. So Ramakrishna knew that. So now he also knew if he goes there, he will merge in Gaya Vishnu and the avatara will end. They will merge in Gaya Vishnu where from he has come. The attraction will be so much that he will go and merge. So Divine Mother wanted that he has to continue his Leela. He has to do so many other works because that teachings, that life of Sri Ramakrishna has to stay. As Swami Vivekananda tells, it will be bright, it will be full luminous form, and it will be in inspiring millions and billions of people all over the world for 1,500 years. So for that, Ramakrishna has to do so much of work still was left. So as Swami Vivekananda has predicted or prophesied, Ramakrishna's teaching, Ramakrishna's that avatara will be in full blaze with high power. Even after that also it will continue, but maybe after that some other new avatara might come, or the gradually just like after so many years it may come down. But he tells Ramakrishna organization, Ramakrishna's teaching will spread all over the world, and it will stay in full light for 1,500 years. This is a prophecy of Swami Vivekananda. So Ramakrishna has to do some more things. So much of work is left. Within that 50 span of years of Swami Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, 1836 to 1886, 50 years. So he completed all the work. So yet some more work was left over. So he didn't want to go to Gaya not because of afraid of giving up the body or merging. He has reached the highest. He knows he is avatara, but he had some more work to do for the humanity. So he told he doesn't want to visit Gaya. He knew about his father's vision at Gaya and the mysterious nature of his birth, and he was convinced that if he went there, he would become merged in his divine origin and leave the body before his mission is completed. His mission was accomplished. After 4 months, the party now returned back to Calcutta, that is Dakshineshwar. Now we'll go to the sadhaka life. We were also now dealing with Sri Ramakrishna's life only. All these things will come back again in the Great Master too. But all this time we were discussing of different aspect of Sri Ramakrishna. Now we will come back from that pilgrimage of Kashi, Prayagraja and Vrindavan back to Dakshineshwar, the life of what is that now? The spiritual aspirant's life. It's just like there is a saying by our great scientist who found out the theory of relativity, interconvertibility of matter into energy. So he has given one more theory. Suppose the scientists in future, if they can find out to travel the speed of light, suppose now we have the capacity to travel more than the speed of sound. So that's why when the airplane or the jet or the rocket, they will call it as supersonic. Supersonic means which can fly, which can go above the double times. They call it 2 max, 3 max, 1.5 max, 3 max, 4 max. So now it has come up to maybe 3 max, means more than supersonic, means it is more than 3 times more speedier than the speed of sound. But they have not yet reached the speed of light. So that great scientist was found out the theory of relativity. He has predicted if we find this speed of, if we can travel by the speed of light, then what can happen? You can go to future, you can travel to future, you can travel to past. So both you can find that. Einstein. So this is the prophecy of Einstein. If you can acquire the speed of light, then you can travel to the future and you can travel to the past. So likewise, we are all now had gone to the past. Now we had gone to the future of Ramakrishna life. That is, we went to pilgrimage to Vrindavan, to Kashi, to Prayag and came back. Now we will travel to the past of life of Sri Ramakrishna. That is the sadhaka life, the spiritual life, spiritual aspirant's life. We are now traveling to the past now. Though we have not acquired the speed of light as told by Einstein, but by the grace of the Lord, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna and grace of our Sharadananda Maharaj, one of the direct disciples, see, we can do that. We will travel back to the life of Sri Ramakrishna, to the past, and we will all see that great Leela, the sport of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, last time we were studying in the spiritual aspirant's life about the one of the bhava, the attitude, the mood of Sri Ramakrishna in the Vatsalya bhava. What is Vatsalya bhava? We have described it earlier. The attitude of seeing God as your own child, girl child or a boy child, male child. So it can be looked of as Mother Kali or Durga or Parvati, Madurai Meenakshi. We all know that in South India there is one famous temple in Tamil Nadu, Madurai Meenakshi. She was born as the daughter of Pandya king. So Madurai, she is also now, even now, praised as Pandya Rajakumari. She was born there as the daughter of Pandya Raja, the king there. And also in Kanchipuram, Kamakshi, also she had taken birth there. She did tapasya, austerity. You go to Kanchipuram temple, the temple can be seen. She used to build that Lord Shiva image in the mud and worship every day. And once there was a huge flood from that river which is nearby. So that flood was about to wash away that image. So Mother Kanchi Kamakshi, Divine Mother Parvati or Durga in that form as an incarnation, She embraced that mud Shivalinga so tight that it should not, she felt that it is so real that it should not be washed away with that river. So that became that permanent, that mud linga became how whatever shape she embraced it tightly. So it is in a very peculiar shape. It is not in the shape of a Shivalinga. Earlier, she had made it like a Shivalinga because she embraced it so tightly to protect it from that flood water so that it should not be washed away with so much of devotion. So that Shivalinga is in a very peculiar form. The way she embraced that, it is in that shape. So if you go to Kanchi Kamakshi, you can see that. So like that, Divine Mother there also, and in Madurai, Meenakshi, she is also seen as a small girl, the daughter of Pandya. So people there also worship her as a daughter of the house with that attitude of Vatsalya Bhava. The Parabrahma Swarupa is a form of a girl child. The same thing if you go to Kanyakumari. Kanya is that small girl of 12. You know that we worship in during Durga Puja, we do that Kumari worship to Divine Mother Durga, bringing a small child, selected child, and we will invoke Divine Mother in her. Swami Vivekananda also did that during that period. When he was alive, he used to do that puja of Kumari Puja, seeing Divine Mother manifested in that small girl child and worshipping her. Kumari Puja will be done. So even now in Belur Math, it will be done. Durga Puja is fast approaching, and they will do. I think this time there will be no Kumari Puja because of the pandemic. You cannot do that. Can't bring the Kumari and she may get infested with that virus and other things. They don't want to put risk the family members or the child or the people. So this time in the Durga Puja there will be no Kumari Puja. Whatever, but here worshipping Divine Mother as a girl child or a boy child, male child, as baby Shiva, as baby Rama, as baby Krishna, baby Subramanya, baby Ganesha. So many things are there, varieties in Hinduism. That is the thing, liberty, freedom is there. So now Ramakrishna met with that sadhu Jatadhari, who was all through worshipping Lord Ramachandra as his child, himself thinking as Dasharatha or Kausalya Mata, manifesting that attitude of Kausalya Mata or Dasharatha. He was looking after that Ramachandra as a small baby, carrying that image of Ramalalla everywhere and worshipping, and he had so much devotion that he could see all that we studied in the last class. We will go again to that. On many occasions, this happened, this Ramalalla and Jatadhari came to Sri Ramakrishna in the year, probably in the year 1864. On many occasions, we have heard Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling from the master himself, Ramakrishna himself, of Jatadhari's extraordinary love and attachment to Ramachandra. The image of the child Ramachandra was very dear to him. Even before he came to Dakshineshwar, met Ramakrishna, long and devoted worship of that image had brought him to the state of divine love and inwardness, which enabled him actually to see Sri Rama as a luminous child, accepting all his services, sanctified by intense devotion. At first, that vision appeared before him for a moment, now and then, and overwhelmed him with bliss. But the more he advanced in sadhana, with the passing of time, the more did the vision become intense and continue for long periods, till at last it became as vivid and continuous as extraordinary objects of sights are. It became so real, vivid, thus established in loving spiritual contemplativeness. He had the child Rama for a constant companion. Other people could see only he's doing the worship and other things too, the idol, that metallic idol. But for Jatadhari, always that baby Ramachandra, baby Rama would be moving with him, accepting his service, walking with him, sitting on his shoulder, carried by Jatadhari. Every time he would be with him constantly. He was a Ramachandra, baby Ramachandra was a constant companion of Jatadhari, moving with him as a child, accepting his service. So Rama, child Rama, he had that constant companion, almost engaging himself daily in the services of the image of Ramlala, by means of which he traveled at pleasure. Every moment, every second, it was a pleasure, joy, because Ramachandra is there, is Ishta Devata, accepting his service, moving about. Where is the question of fear? So, where is the question of anything for that sake? Trouble, whatever might be the external trouble, he's so joyful. Whatever might be his sickness, he's having Ramachandra always with him, baby Rama. So, where is the question of dukkha? Where is the question of sorrow? No sorrow at all. So, yesterday, after the Bhagavad Gita class, a devotee asked me the question how to overcome fear of death, how to overcome the sorrow and other things. See here, if the Lord is your constant companion, is always there with you, where is the question of sorrow? You know, there is a wonderful statement by Holy Mother Sharda Devi. Whenever you have the memory or remembrance, thought of Ishta, Ishta means Ishta Devata, that is your chosen deity. So if you have the memory, constant meditation or constant remembrance of your Ishta, where is the question of Anishta? Ishta means Ishta Devata. Anishta means which you don't like, that is sorrow, troubles, pain, and all these things is called Anishta. Anishta. So if you have the constant memory, constant japa, you are remembering your Ishta, the chosen deity, the Lord. Where is the question of Anishta? This is the question asked by Mother Sharda Devi. So there cannot be any sorrow. If you are constantly thinking of God, if you are constantly thinking of your Ishta Devata, there will be no pain, there will be no sorrow. So naturally there will be no fear of death also. The question was, how can you overcome fear of death? So if you are in constant memory, remembrance of your Ishta Devata, then where is the question of sorrow? Where is the question of death? Where is the question of fear? No fear at all. So now you can see happening in the life of this Jatadhari. What is happening? Thus established in loving spiritual contemplativeness, he had the child Rama for a constant companion, almost engaging himself daily in the service of that image of Ramalalla, the child Rama, by means of which he had come to realize the divine vision in his life. Jatadhari traveled at pleasure. Wherever he went, he had just joy and joy, bliss and bliss. Everywhere, child Rama is with him. Sitting on his shoulder, sitting on his waist, walking with him, catching hold of his hand, sleeping on his breast. Wherever he's sleeping with him. His constant company. So he is not leaving him at all. Lord Rama is not leaving him at all. So where is the question of fear? Where is the question of death? Where is the question of sorrow? Joy, bliss, bliss, and bliss alone. So, thus established in loving spiritual contemplativeness, he had child Rama for a constant companion, engaging himself daily in the services of the image of Ramlala, by means of which he had come to realize the divine vision in his life. Jatadhari traveled at pleasure to the various places of pilgrimage in India and came to Kali temple at Dakshineshwar during that year, as I told you, 1864. He came to Dakshineshwar in the course of it, going to different pilgrimage center. As I told you, he was a Ramayat sadhu, the follower of Ramanujacharya, having big namams like this. It is called Urdhva Poundra. If you put Vibhuti in Vedic system, in Vedic rishis, used to put the Vibhuti, the ashes in this form, like this. It's called Poundra. Poundra. But Ramanuja Sampradaya, the same thing which is like this, they will put like this. This is called Urdhva Poundra. Urdhva means upward direction. Urdhva Poundra. In Vedic system, old it was this Poundra. It's called Poundra, Tripoundra. So the same thing, Ramanuja Sampradaya, they will put it like this. It's called Urdhva Poundra. Urdhva means upward direction. Poundra, the same three. Tripoundra or Urdhva Poundra. So, Jatadhari, the follower of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya Ramanujacharya, Ramayata Sadhu or Ramavata Sadhu, now with this baby Ramachandra, always with him, constant companion, reached Kali temple Dakshineshwar in 1864. That was the will of Divine Mother that he should come and gain so many things and also give that lesson of what you call become the Guru of Sri Ramakrishna in this particular aspect. What is that? The Vatsalya Bhava. Jatadhari, though applying himself wholeheartedly to the service of baby Rama, Ramalala as a living presence, did not divulge to anyone the secret that he had the privilege of having every now and then the vision of the form of the child Rama. Because by any spiritual thing, it should be personal. It should be only for you. It should be between you and the Lord. It should not be broadcast. You should not go to the British Broadcasting Corporation or NDTV or CNN, IBN and take a drum and tom it. Spiritual life, spiritual visions are always to be personal. It should never be divulged to anybody. Only it can be divulged to your guru or a monk who can understand you, whom you feel that is close or is of the same wavelength. Otherwise, people may start making comment. They may criticize some unscrupulous movement. They don't have people who don't have faith. They find fault in everything, doubting promises. They will then criticize. They will doubt and put some word into your ear, a bug of doubt. Then you will lose those visions, or you will lose all those things. So you will get doubt about it. So it should not be divulged to anybody. You should enjoy it. Otherwise, you may start losing having that visions and other things. So it should be kept secret, top secret. It should not to be divulged to anybody except your guru or some monk who is spiritually progressed monk who can understand you. Faithless people, doubtful people, unscrupulous elements, always finding fault. So if you tell them, or if they come to know, they will start criticizing you, making fun of you, mocking at you, and then it may stop. It may bring in doubt in your mind. So that is one of the reason. Another reason is that, as Shardanand Maharaj himself tells in another place, that whatever you keep a secret, why our rishis and munis tell that, the saints tell us that you should keep your spiritual things secret. Whatever you keep secret will sink into your subconscious mind. See, all the bad things, immoral things, or whatever bad things, bad practices, what you do, we hide it. We do it secretly. That's why you can see they go deep into the subconscious mind and trouble you there. It will be staying there. And from there, it will take hold of you. But all the good things you tell tom-tom to every Tom, Dick and Harry, and it would take a drum and broadcast it to show it off to everybody. And it will remain on the surface, on the conscious mind. It will never sink into subconscious mind. So all the bad things, all the dirty things will go into the subconscious mind. It will be very strong. And all the good things which are to go to the subconscious mind will be at the surface level, and it will not be of use. So that's why whatever you keep secret, your mantra, your guru, that's why they will tell you should not repeat the name of your guru also. But all those customs are there. You have to keep a secret, all those things, mantra, everything. So then it will start sinking into your subconscious mind, and it will start cleaning all the bad things, dirty things which are there in your for millions and millions of years of so many birth, everything is there. Start. That's why you can see when you start meditation after taking mantra diksha, Swamiji, so many bad thoughts are coming to my mind. Well, that's the right sign, good sign that your spiritual practices are going in and washing and started. The churning process has started. All the bad things are coming out. The poison is coming out. The toxins are coming out. You are in the right progress. You are doing the progress in spiritual life. Very good. Let that poison come out. Toxins come out. Don't worry about it. Constantly think of God. That will be washed out and going away. So anything spiritual, anything visions you have, keep it a secret. It should be kept secret. It should not be divulged. Either you want to show off that you are a great spiritual aspirant to others and get name and fame, or some other worldly things you want to gain by that, then you will broadcast all your spiritual things. Or else, they're all hallucinations. So if it's genuine, you will never divulge it. It will be always there. Only people of same wavelength or who have gone forward in spiritual life, very rarely to your guru or something, you will divulge it. You will never divulge it to anybody. Keep it secret. It goes to your subconscious mind and it will start working there. It will cleanse the whole thing and you become pure and pure and pure. Whatever visions and everything you have, keep it a secret. Like you can see here, our Jatadhari He's having constant vision of Rama, but he's not divulging it. Anybody, never. He had Sri Ramachandra as a living presence constantly. He did not divulge to anyone. Anyone. They thought him to be a very ordinary sadhu. People would see him and they thought he's just feeding some image, metallic cold, a metallic Rama's image, that's all. So nobody knew the secret. He did not divulge to anyone the secret that he had the privilege of having every time, every now and then, the vision of the form of child Rama. Never divulged it to anybody. The embodiment of love. People could only see that he always served a metal image of a child with extraordinary steadfastness. So much of steadfastness, he was serving that metallic image. People could only know that. Every day, they knew that much, only that much, and nothing more. But can it escape the sight of Sri Ramakrishna, who was the emperor of all the moods, Bhava Samrajya, the empire of moods, the empire of Bhava, the empire of spiritual world. He was the emperor. Sri Ramakrishna was the emperor. All these thoughts, moods, and bhavas, can it escape his mind? So now, though Ramala, Jatadhari had kept all this a secret, top secret, people could only see that he always served a metal image of a child with extraordinary steadfastness every day. They knew that much and nothing more. But the insight of Sri Ramakrishna, the matchless Lord of the realm of spiritual moods. So you can see what an adjective given by Sharadanandaji Maharaj about Sri Ramakrishna. What a wonderful adjective. You have to remember that adjective. What is that? The matchless Lord of the realm of spiritual moods. Master Sri Ramakrishna, the matchless Lord of the realm of spiritual moods, comparisonless. You cannot compare. Peerless, matchless, Lord of realm of spiritual moods, that is Sri Ramakrishna. Can it escape his sight? Can it escape his vision? Pierced the gross external curtain at his very first meeting with Jatadhari. The moment he saw Jatadhari, he could understand Lord Ramachandra is constantly staying with him. Wherever that Ramachandra would move, you could see how Ramachandra was moving with him, sitting on his shoulder, catching hold of his hands, moving with him, taking its service. Everything was seen by Sri Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna could fathom it. But the insight of the master, the matchless Lord of the realm of spiritual moods, pierced the gross external curtain at his very first meeting with Jatadhari and ascertained the hidden inward mystery. Therefore, he had a great respect for that monk. Ramakrishna developed great respect, devotion to that monk, Jatadhari, because he could know what was the depth of his spiritual life. He had gone so much forward in spiritual life, how much he had dedicated everything, sacrificed everything for that baby child, and he had that beautiful vision of Sri Ramachandra, baby Rama. Was it easy? Because of his hard, austere life, it was possible. So Ramakrishna developed great devotion to that Jatadhari, great respect. Ramakrishna, the Avatara himself, developed great respect. So how can you earn the respect and love of Ramakrishna? By developing love towards God. If we all develop love towards God, then you can earn the respect, you can earn the love of Sri Ramakrishna. That is the only way. So Ranganathanandaji Maharaj used to tell how to earn the love of Mother Saraswati by learning more and more new knowledge in different fields, whether it may be music, whether it may be fine arts, whether it may be painting, whether it may be cooking, whether it may be anything, farming, any new knowledge. You start gaining more and more knowledge in any field, science, arts, commerce, fine arts, wherever, in any field. If you start earning artificial intelligence, computer science, wherever, whichever knowledge you gain more and more knowledge, and that is how you can gain the love of respect of Mother Saraswati. Mother Saraswati will be pleased with you the more you learn, the more knowledge you get. Gnana Daini, so she will be very happy and she will bless you. So, like that, how can you gain the respect and love? And how can that Sri Ramakrishna be pleased with you? By gaining more and more love towards God, by doing more and more service of God, seeing them in all the living beings. So, gaining more and more knowledge of the Lord, gaining more devotion, going more towards God, then Ramakrishna will start developing respect, love, and he will be pleased with you. So, the moment he saw, he could understand. And Ramakrishna started respecting him. Great love and respect towards that Jatadhari. So he could ascertain the hidden inward mystery. Therefore, he had a great respect for that monk, Jatadhari, and joyfully supplied him. Ramakrishna started serving him. Because of his devotion and progress in spiritual life, Ramakrishna himself started serving that Jatadhari. The moment he saw him, he could understand he was a great monk, great man of spirituality, had gone forward in that Vatsalya Bhava. So Ramakrishna himself started serving him. He had great respect towards him. How did he serve him? So therefore, Ramakrishna had a great respect for that monk and joyfully supplied him with all the articles, necessary for his service of that Ramalala, that small child. Besides, the master spent long hours with him every day. Besides, the master spent many hours. Ramakrishna had no time to waste at all. He would be always hiding, just thinking of mother. But now, because he's such a great monk, he has so much of devotion to that baby Ramachandra, Ramakrishna would spend many hours every day with that monk. Long hours, master spent long hours with him every day and devoutly witnessed Ramlala's services that Jatadhari used to do. Devoutedly witnessed the service of that baby Rama. The master did so only because he, as we have said elsewhere, had the divine vision of Rama's celestial form, the embodiment of spiritual love, which Jatadhari also used to have. Because Ramakrishna had already had it earlier. He had the vision of Sri Ramachandra. He had the vision of Mother Sita. Mother Sita got absorbed, gifting her smile to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, because he had already had that vision, he was already there, he knew everything. So that's why the master did so, that watching Jatadhari and staying with him for hours together, serving him, giving him all the necessities to do the service of that baby Rama, because he himself had the divine vision of Rama's celestial form, the embodiment of spiritual love, which Jatadhari also used to have. Accordingly, the spiritual relation of the master with Jatadhari gradually became intimate and respectful. We have already mentioned that the master spent some time in the mood of a woman to satisfy an urge to develop this aspect of his dual personality. Looking upon himself as the eternal female companion of the universal mother, he applied himself wholly for a pretty long time to her service. He had also followed the spiritual practice as the Sakhi, the servant or the friend of Divine Mother, herself taking the attitude of a woman servant of Divine Mother or woman friend of Divine Mother. So he had practiced sadhana in that too, not only as Radha. So it was very natural to him. We have already mentioned that the master spent some time in the mood of a woman to satisfy an urge to develop this aspect of womanhood. So he has to show the ideal not only for men, he is an ideal even for women, because he had developed that womanhood and practiced the Sakhi Bhava. and Dasya Bhava to Divine Mother as a servant, as a Sakhi, a friend of Divine Mother, and also the Radha attitude of Radha on himself and realizing Krishna. So, looking upon himself as the eternal female companion of the universal mother, he applied himself wholly for a pretty long time to the service of Divine Mother. He would adorn and decorate her with flowers, garland prepared with his own hands and with new gold ornaments got ready by Mathur at his request. Fan the Divine Mother with a chamara. Chamara means that fan. Physically, they would fan. That is called the chamara. So that chamara is made out of the tail of the yak. It is found in the cold desert or dry places of Tibet, border of Tibet and Himalaya, that India. In that range, even in Himalayan places, you can find that cow, a special variety of cow. It is just a species of the cow. Because of that cold, arid, and dry region, it will have lot of hairs on the body to protect itself from the cow. That hair, from that hair, because cow is considered to be very holy for Hindus, from that cow, this fan is made. You can see in all the temples, there will be that chamara, they will be waving to the god. That is called chamara. It comes from the Sanskrit word for that animal is that cow, special variety of cow. It is chamari mruga. So from that chamari mruga, that hair is taken and is used for the service of the Lord. It is called chamara. So because it has come from that chamari mruga, it is found in the border of Tibet and Himalayan regions where it will be very cold. For that, the survival of those cows, they have to develop a lot of hairs on the body. So that with that hair, they will make this fan. So it's called chamara. So during Arati, you can see every day in Belur Math and other places in India, they will do this chamara seva, just like fan. They will wave. Even Durban, they have this chamara, they wave it. So when we build the temple for the master, the house for the master in Johannesburg, we will also get some chamaras from Belur Math or some places in Himalaya, and we will use that fan also to the Lord here too. So he used to wave chamara to Divine Mother to cool her person and sing and dance before her in a woman's dress to please her. It is needless to say that the master undertook to perform all these because a strong urge to do so arose in his mind of its own accord. Now, that is useful now. He will develop that attitude of Mother Kausalya in Sri Venkateshwara Suprabhata in Tirupati. I think you have heard, most of you will have heard Subbalakshmi singing the Suprabhata of Venkateshwara. Again, if you have not, you can go and hear it again. Kausalya Suprajaram Purva Sandhya Pravartate Kausalya Suprajarama Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam forgot that. Lokama Nikama, something like that. Okay. We tell fast, everything will come. Kausalya Daivamanikam. Yeah.
Daivamanikam.
Yeah, Daivamanikam. So Kausalya Suprajarama. So the child Rama, when it was sleeping early in the morning, Kausalya, she used to go and very lovingly wake up. So that has been put in this divine form in that child Suprabhata. Oh Lord, your mother is trying to wake you up. A lot of work has to be done. Gods are waiting for you to see you have your vision. Oh Rama, wake up, child Rama, wake up. Kausalya, Mother Kausalya is waking up. We told that in Venkatesha Suprabhata, that Rama. So, and also they will also take the feeling that Vishwamitra, when he was taking that young Ramachandra to the forest to his ashrama, when he used to sleep, he used to guard him, looking at the beautiful face of that child Ramachandra. Just like Kausalya, how lucky was Kausalya to have you as a child. She could always have look at the face, the beautiful lotus face of you. So Vishwamitra used to feel like that when he was taking Ramachandra, that beautiful lotus face. So Kausalya, Suprajarama, Purva Sandhya Pravartate. So in the Purva, sun is rising. Oh, get up, Ramachandra. Ramachandra, early morning. We tell this and wake up in Tirupati and other places too. It is for Lord Ramachandra only. So here we could just that beautiful face of Rama to serve So maybe Divine Mother had prepared to have that attitude of Kausalya. So that woman was practiced by Sri Ramakrishna to have this attitude and practice this. So now the master's love and devotion to Rama revived in the company of Jatadhari. The form that he now saw in the image under the revived impulse was that of child Rama, the embodiment of spiritual love. Therefore, it is no wonder that Sri Ramakrishna's mind was now filled with maternal affection. What is that maternal? Motherly. Paternal means fatherly. Dasharatha, like Dasharatha. I don't know what Jatadhari had. Jatadhari may be mixed as Dasharatha as also Kausalya, mother. But Ramakrishna now started developing that maternal affection, motherly love towards the child. So, therefore, it is no wonder that Ramakrishna's mind now was filled with maternal love, maternal affection for that divine child. The master began to feel towards the divine child that wonderful love and attraction which a mother feels towards her young child. That love and attraction alone doubtless made the master now sit beside the child image of Ramalala. It was not an image, it was live Ramachandra, baby Ramachandra, crawling, walking with difficulty. You know, you have heard that wonderful song written by Tulsi Das. So wonderful song. You just sing it, but you do not feel the meaning. ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र बाजत पैजनिया ठुमक चलत रामचंद्र. Baby Rama finding difficult to walk, is so small baby. You know that when the baby from the crawling stage is trying to walk, so it will put some unsteady steps, so that step of Ramachandra, baby Rama, while he's stepping, that sound, so that is being described by Tulsidas as tumak. Tumak means that when he steps, that the way he steps, that baby Rama is called tumak chalat Ramachandra bajat pejaniya. His that the mother Kausalya has put that golden ring or that silver bell-like ring at the feet of the Rama. So that is making sound. Bajat Pajaniya. That ornament put to the leg of Ramachandra, baby Ramachandra, when he is walking, that steps, unsteady steps, keeping walking that baby Rama. So that thing is making sound. Tumak chalat Ramachandra, Bajat Pajaniya, Tumak chalat Ramachandra. So beautiful way that Rama walking. So like that, Ramakrishna could see that baby trying to walk, crawl, going around that Jatadhari, so that now he started developing that motherly affection, maternal affection like Kausalya Mata. So Ramakrishna started getting that feeling. The master began to feel towards the divine child the wonderful love and attraction which a mother feels towards her young child. That love and attraction alone. So all mothers, they have seen that children, their own children, running like this. So they can feel it. Instead of feeling as their biological child, can feel that it is Ramachandra or Lord Krishna or Shiva, then that itself will take you to spiritual progress. So easy. See, this is the speciality of Hinduism. Nowhere in a religion can you have this, the freedom to feel like this. Nowhere. Such easy, even the worldly things can be converted into spiritual progress. So, yeah, that love and attraction alone doubtless made the master now sit beside the child image of Ram Lala and look at it so intensely that he did not know how time slipped away. To lose the time, sense of time at all. So when you are in happy, that's why there is a saying. It has come from the English world only, but it is used in India much. I didn't see it here in South Africa. They used to tell that Sunday is longer than Monday. When somebody is having a inner dress like banyan or something longer than the outer external dress, or something from within is peeping out, is to teach them Sunday is longer than Monday. We couldn't understand. We used to just tell if there is something banyan or some inner cloth peeping outside, that is to be told. We couldn't know the meaning. Then I thought over it. What should be the meaning? Sunday is longer than Monday. Sunday is a holiday generally. So you'll be just having joy, sleeping, enjoying, partying, going to movies, going to picnic, going to parks. But Monday is a working day. You have to go to the work, drudgery, monotony, boredom. You don't love work. So you have to go there, go to the work, face the boss, or sit in the office. So much of hard work, so much of work. But Sunday was so much joy. So whatever is joyful, the time will go very fast. You can't know what time is. Sunday, because of holiday, everything, the time will fly away. It looks so short. Sunday is already over. Monday has come again. My God, you have to go and do that same monotony because you don't love work. If you enjoy work, and if you make it convert that work into spirituality, work is worship, then even Monday will become longer. No, Monday will become shorter because you are enjoying your work, your service, seeing the Lord in the boss, seeing the Lord in the teacher, seeing the this thing in the subordinates, in your colleagues, everywhere you work, you would be doing worship as yaga, yagna, havan, like the worship of the Lord. Then even that also, the time will fly away because you are converted even work into worship. But now work is a drudgery for us. It becomes friction. So much of that's why you will have so much of diseases and other things because you are worried. You feel that Sunday weekend should come more and more. So Sunday is longer than Monday. Means it has become reversed. Usually Monday should be long, but Sunday has become longer. Means your that inner cloth has come outside. The outer cloth should have been more longer. It has become reversed. Generally, the Sunday will be shorter because of the joy you have on that day. That is the usage. So, like that, here the time was flying because he's enjoying. Even hours, the whole day would, he couldn't have the idea of time at all. So fast, everything, because joy and joy. So time is contracted, you see. You can contract time, you can expand. If it is boring, if it is this thing, even 1 minute will become like 1 year suffering. But if you are enjoying, even 1 year will become like 1 day or small. So, Master said the extraordinary child, and when he was watching there intently, he didn't know how the time slipped away. For by means of various sweet childish pranks, the baby Ramachandra would make so many childish pranks. All children are like that, isn't it? The childish prank. Whenever mothers and parents used to come to me when I was looking after the educational institution there, Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram in Bangalore, used to complain, oh, my child is very mischievous. He plays a lot of pranks, did not obey. Then I used to ask them, then when should the person make pranks and mischief? After getting old, can they do that? They have to play pranks. They have to be mischievous when they are children. Enjoy it. Take it in the right spirit. Enjoy that pranks. So now all baby, even Ramachandra Krishna was very mischievous. I explained about that in Narendra was also very mischievous and played prank. Even Ramakrishna also was so mischievous. We have seen that. So we think that Rama is very serious and he will be always serious. No, as baby Ramachandra was also mischievous. If you read Ramayana, you can enjoy all those things. So baby Ramachandra, so by means of various sweet childish pranks, the master said the extraordinary, effulgent child made him forget everything else. The pranks of Sri Ramachandra, the play of Sri Ramachandra, that baby Ramachandra moving around, running away from the mother or father, making Yashoda, Krishna used to go run. The whole mother used to forget about her own clothing, run behind this thing. After seeing she was so tired with that fat body, how could Yashoda run? So after that, only deliberately Krishna would be caught. He would allow her to catch. Otherwise, could anybody catch Lord Krishna? So seeing her helplessness, Krishna would be caught in the hands of Yashoda. Like that, here too, Ramachandra, the child Ramachandra with sweet childish pranks. The master said the extraordinary effulgent child made him forget everything else, tried to detain him daily by his side, kept on watching. He forgot Kali, he forgot Dakshineshwar temple, he forgot Mathur, forgot everybody. Now he's completely immersed in Ramachandra, baby Ramachandra. But the child made him forget everything else, tried to detain Ramakrishna daily by his side, kept on watching him expectantly when he moved away and accompanied him wherever in spite of his request not to do so. In spite of the request not to do so, he couldn't. He used to follow Chitadari and Ramachandra, baby Rama. So we have enjoyed that today. So many things spiritual. So now, because already we too lost the sense of time, the pranks of Ramachandra and that Ramakrishna's divine Leela, we too lost time. When we sit for this, people in South Africa, when I came, they used to tell, oh, Swamiji, the attention span of our people is only 20 minutes or half an hour. You should not give lecture above half an hour. Their attention span is gone. They cannot understand. There will be no concentration. They will feel bored. Is it? Okay. But I have seen in India that we used to take up this Gana Pravachana and different singing and even lectures. It would go on for more than 2 hours, 2.5 hours. People would be indulged in that, forgetting everything. And you tell people will lose the attention span for only half an hour or 20 minutes. Yes, I can understand with children. But how can the elderly lose their attention span within? Okay, for 2 hours, no, so for 2 years, I used to be just watching gradually. Now, with the great master class started, we are now almost doing 1.5 hours or 2 hours. And we do not know how the time flies, and we want more and more to hear about the master. So that is the speciality of the life of the great avatars, Ramachandra, Krishna. On Krishna Janmashtami, we even crossed the limit of 3 hours or 4 hours. On the final day, every day we used to take almost 2 hours. People will be feeling joyful. And on the day Krishna Janmashtami, we took only more than 3 hours. No complaint, everybody was happy. So that is spirituality. That is divinity. You lose time, everything. So today also we lost the idea of time at all. Everything. There was no idea of time. So you can see how you can be joyful, how you can keep your mind at a higher state, how you can forget death, how you can forget fear, how you can forget stress. So easy method the Lord by his avatar and sports has given us. We still are attracted to the worldly things. We want to give our mind to the sensual enjoyments and just waste our time. So though such elixir is there, when Amrita is there, we want to drink the gutter water. That's the statement of Swami Vivekananda. Let us enjoy this. Meditate on that. So again, we'll start this. We will come back to the discussion tomorrow. Tomorrow morning too, we have the discussion. Now we'll stop the discussion because the time is over. It's time for question and answer. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can now entertain that. Any questions?
Well, Swamiji, thank you so much for a wonderful discourse. Kept us awake.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Paul and Chetty, thank you so much. I should thank all of you, especially because even giving up the sleep and giving up all other things, you are dedicated your time, so much appreciate time for the Lord. For that, you are because sacrifice. I have to thank you. I have to appreciate.
Maharaj, Madhu here.
Yes, Madhu.
So you told about Poundra and who's the Poundra. So is this differentiation just to differentiate or out of jealousy they did exactly the opposite, these two sects of Hinduism?
Nothing like that. See, Now, when the Britishers left India, we tried to maintain the same transport system. But in America, they were the Britishers only and the Europeans only. But after they got freedom from the British, they changed the road system, everything reverse, just to forget. So now there it is the right hand driving. We have the left side driving. They changed it to right. Not only that, even the switch of the electricity board, they do it from top to bottom. No, we do it from top to bottom. They do it reverse. Everything reverse. So it is nothing like that out of jealousy or out of thing like that. The Vaishnava Sampradaya people, they wanted something special. So to make a special identity, they did it. And it was revealed to their acharyas. The Lord Himself has revealed to their acharyas. They have done that. Nothing to be of anything of jealousy or anything of that sort. It is revealed to their acharyas in that way. The Lord has revealed. It is all the sports of the Lord. By the will of the Lord, it has happened. Just enjoy everything as it is. That's all. That's the speciality of Hinduism. Everything is the creation of the Lord. Any good thing everywhere, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it.
But the reason I think we, without knowing this, I think we have taken that itself as a cause for differentiating between people. If I see a people with other way around, I don't just mingle along or I just don't talk to them. That's how I think we
Definitely.
took that.
Definitely, that is true. When our mind has this fault-finding tendency and we are not move forward in spiritual life, when we have this fanaticism and we have the dross or the impurities in our mind, we will find faults everywhere. But as we progress in spiritual life, these things will diminish, the external things will diminish, and we will enjoy everything. So the best thing is progress forward in spiritual life and you will enjoy everything. That's the remedy. But when we have fault-finding tendency, when we have impurity in mind, not only this nama or poundra, anything we will start finding fault. The nature will be finding, we will even find fault with God's creation also. So that is the human tendency. When we are at the lower level, our mind is impure, we will find faults with everyone. When our mind becomes purer and purer, and we will go deeper into the spiritual aspect, we will just ignore the external things and enjoy everything.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Yes. Any more question? Any other doubts? So if there are no doubts, no questions, then we will conclude it with the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayajneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu